Some epic damage dealers in Raid Shadow Legends are basically as valuable as legendaries. Well, not all of them, but it is important that for at least each faction, you've got at least one good damage dealer built out for use in things like faction wars and secret rooms and that kind of thing. So what is up there, guys? This is Cobb, and welcome to what is going to be one good epic damage dealer for every single faction in this game. And if you have one of these champs, they're usually worth building out. We're going to be starting off in reverse order with the good old Sylvan Watchers, where we actually have a couple of picks. We'll start off with Diana, who is of course the Void pick in this duo, as it takes a little bit long for us to load in there, but she brings a double hitter on the A1, which brings a strong version of decreased defense, which is just great to have on an A1. To be honest, we're going to skip straight into a A3, where she brings an attack all enemies before attacking, place increased crit rate and increased crit damage on this champ for 2 turns, and if this attack kills an enemy, place a veil buff on all allies for 1 turn. So bringing a little bit of extra survivability to the squad as well, which is lovely. Of course, you can build her out with that 70% crit rate because she's bringing the self buff herself, and you can just really hard focus on maxing out her other stats, right? Her crit damage and her attack percent, and get her absolutely clapping cheeks. As for Diana's A2, it's interesting, teams up with 2 random allies to attack a single enemy. The allies joining the attack will use their default skills, and so she'll be using her A1 as well. So again, trying to place that strong decreased defense debuff, which is great, but a double ally attacker on the A2 is just a nice bit of utility to throw into the mix as well. And that's Diana Gloompiercer. And because chat is calling me out like crazy right now, and rightfully so, dude, how the hell did I forget about Mistrider Daithy, dude? Or Daithy, or however the hell you pronounce that. Yeah, this guy's crazy as hell. Shame on me for almost missing him, but attacks one enemy, 50% chance of removing 1 random buff from the target. Also has a 10% chance of granting this champ an extra turn, which is bookable up to a 20% chance, I believe. I'm pretty sure that the buff and debuff chance does impact this extra chance to get an extra turn as well. Very, very solid A1. The A2 is an attack all enemies with a 100% chance booked of placing the strong version of decreased defense for a couple of turns, and grants an extra turn if the decreased defense debuff is placed on all enemies by this skill. Cool thing about this is that it doesn't need to be hitting 4 enemies for this to work, right? There can be just 2 enemies left alive in a wave of enemies. As long as the decreased defense is placed, you will get the extra turn. So it doesn't even matter that it's at a 4-turn cooldown. It's going to get that extra turn anyway, you know? And just dial it down by 1 turn. The A3 plays increased attack and increased accuracy buff on this champ for 3 turns, which is a great buff to have on a Nuker damage dealer, right? And then grants an extra turn. But the increased accuracy is so good, because it means that, of course, you don't have to invest like 300 accuracy or whatever into your Daithy to get him landing this decreased defense. You can take care of business with like 150 accuracy and then focus the rest of your stats on damage, man. So that's definitely a very, very lovely, nice to have. Those are my 2 picks for Sylvan Watchers. I swear from now on, every other faction is going to get 1 pick. But before we get to that, hey man, if you're looking to start off a brand new raid account and some of these more budget option nukers are getting you nostalgic for a free-to-play adventure or free-to-play challenge, then make sure to sign up to raid using my beginner promo link, which is down below at the top of the video description, man. Click on that link, download raid using that link, and you get yourself 4 free epic champions to kickstart your new account, man. By far the best possible way to start your new Raid Shadow Legends adventure. All you gotta do on PC is make sure that you're signed out of Plarium Player, by the way, before clicking on that link and setting up your new account, and that'll guarantee that you get your hands on all those saucy rewards. Next up, we've got the good old Shadowkin. There's only one option here, really, man. It has to be Genbo. I mean, there are some great damage dealers and some great nukers in the Shadowkin faction as well. We're not even touching on a Boro here, who has great damage potential as well. But when it comes to just an out-and-out nuker, Genbo the Dishonored, especially when it comes to PvP, probably like one of the top 3 epics in the game when it comes to just an out-and-out nuker. And like a lot of the best nukers in the game, he's also going to be bringing his very own increased crit rate and increased crit damage buff on himself as well. Then gets that extra turn right away on his A3, which is great. You can chase that up with a good old A2, which is just an attack all enemies, 100% chance booked of decreasing the duration of all buffs by 1 turn. And this effect cannot be resisted on crits. Needless to say, you're going to build him out with 70% crit rate anyway. He makes up the rest on his own, so 100% crit. This is just never going to be resisted, meaning you don't have to worry about building accuracy on your Genbo. And then he's got a double hitter on his A1 as well. Each hit steals any increased attack buffs. Each hit also has a chance of stealing 1 random buff. The increased attack buff, steal, cannot be resisted, so yeah. No accuracy needed. The guy hits like an absolute truck. That is Genbo for the Shadowkin, man. Moving on to the dwarves. Dude, there's some good options in the dwarves, to be honest. I can't pass up the opportunity, though, to spotlight Morag. Is she actually the best nuker for the dwarf? I don't know if she is, man, but she is solid. Dude, look at the braids, man, on this gal as well. Are you kidding me with this? She looks badass as hell. One of the craziest, most awesome looking character designs in Raid 2. And she has a very, very unique kit as well. She's a defense-based Nuker 2, which is great. On her A1, she's got a double hitter that will ignore shield buffs. The A2 is an attack all enemies, places a strong strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. On the A3, teams up with 2 random allies to attack a single enemy. The allies joining the attack will use their default skills. Grants an extra turn if any enemy is killed, which is just lovely. And then on her passive, counterattacks when hit while under a strengthen buff placed by this champion. She's just a meathead. She just clobbers people, man. She basically always has the strengthen buff active anyway, and so she's spamming this goddamn passive. She's counterattacking like crazy. She's ally attacking like crazy. Morag Bronzelock, dude. I don't know, man. I was just looking forward to her for a reason to spotlight this champion. I think that she's an absolute giga chad. I would love to have this champ on my own account. Don't have her even on the main, man, so I'm a little bit sad. I could also, of course, just have covered Geomancer here. Is he really a nuker? He's a damage dealer, that's for sure, and a very, very, very good damage dealer in certain areas of the game. And that's great. But for an out-and-out, I'm going to keep things to just the out-and-out nukers more than anything. Dude, do we want to be covering Gala long braids as well? Oh, there's some amazing options in the dwarves, but again, I'm going to try and keep it to just one. As for the Knights Revenant faction, ooh, this one's a little tough. Whisper is, of course, an incredible damage dealer. I mean, ridiculous. One of the best in the game. Just insane for killing bosses in particular. We've covered Whisper before in previous videos, and when it comes to just single target damage, specifically against bosses, Whisper is an absolute demon. She's a monster. I'm going to go ahead and cover another controversial one here, and just use this opportunity to spotlight good old Thalesia. Thalesia is a very, very versatile damage dealer, primarily because she's bringing the increased defense debuff for a couple of turns on her A3, and so she's a natural kind of upgrade for the likes of War Maiden on your account when you're just starting out, which is how I used her. But dude, the reason I'm going to spotlight Thalesia is because this skill, it hits pretty goddamn hard, man. She's quite squishy, Thalesia, right? Low base health, average to below average-ish defense. She's quite hard to keep alive. But when it comes to just dealing damage, this skill is actually very, very solid. As is her A2, which is another attack all enemies, increase the duration of all debuffs on enemies by 1 turn. So the cool thing about Thalesia is that you can build her out as a nuker early on in your account. It's just like an out-and-out damage dealer. And then once you get a better damage dealer option for your Knights Revenant faction, what you can do instead is just build her out to be nice and fast, super high accuracy, but just to focus on speed and just getting up her debuffs as much as possible. And she's kind of like a secondary nuker at that point where damage isn't her real focus. She's mostly there for the debuffs and the like, you know. Could even throw in something like a bloody stun set, to be honest. These are like 2-3 turn cooldown AoEs, and so she could also go into that kind of role as well, where she's like half stun set, debuffer, bit of damage. But until you find a better option, she's actually just a very, very good damage dealer indeed, man. Surprised me a little bit. Is she actually the best nuker for the Knights Revenant? I mean, we even got Sinesha in there that you can talk about as well. And Skullcrown is another fantastic epic damage dealer as well. Is Void Affinity is a little bit harder to get your hands on too. Honestly, there's a lot of good options in Knights Revenant. Everyone's going to be tilted as hell that I picked Thalesia to shout out in this video, but is what it is. As for the Dark Elves, ooh, do we have some options here too? I think I'm going to use this opportunity to hone in on good old Durandal, man. This is a unique damage dealer in Raid. This guy's quite unique. I also notice a lot of my picks here are going to be quite controversial, but you know what? It is what it is. We can at least get some discussion from this going, right? So Durandal, quite a unique kit, man. He's got a double hitter with it, each hit having a chance to place freeze on his A1. This chance increases to 30% on each crit. On his A2, he's got an attack all enemies, will ignore 15% of target's defense, and gets a little bit of 10 meter fill as well on each crit. So if you're attacking into 4 enemies, it's a 40% 10 meter fill, which is just quite solid. And then on the A3, attacks 1 enemy, ignores half of their defense. This skill smacks, from what I've seen, hits really, really hard, and also plays a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns if this hit is a crit. And so he brings a very, very unique, almost like comparable to Ninja's survivability. Ninja has almost always got that perfect veil up on himself, just reducing the amount of damage that he takes from AoE hits, making himself untargetable to single target hits from enemies. Durandal is kind of bringing much the same thing, where he's just quite a survivable and durable damage dealer, which is just a very, very nice to have, and the fact he smacks on top of that is also a big help too. Alright, man, moving swiftly on to the undead hordes, scroll on down to the epics. Okay, dude, we got some options here, man. Husk is great. It's a great nuker into Hydra specifically. Dealing max HP damage is lovely. I think for just a general nuker in Undead Hordes, I don't think you can go wrong with Dark Elhen. She's great for kind of progression and speeding up your runs into areas of the game like Frost Spider in Doom Tower and Ice Golem, of course. Mostly because of her passives, right? Which I guess we'll just cover these first, but she gets some turn meter fill and instantly activates her A2, which is an attack all enemies, whenever this champion or an ally receives a freeze debuff. And if she gets frozen, instantly remove any freeze debuffs from this champion and replace them with an increased crit rate and increased crit damage buff, and a strengthen buff whenever an enemy places a freeze on your Dark Elhen. So lovely. Her A2 also gives herself an increased attack. She has a chance of placing decreased speed as she attacks all enemies. The A2 is very, very good. And the A1 is fine. It's destroy a little bit of max HP, but it's mostly about just spamming as many of the A2s as you possibly can. And yeah, she's very, very squishy, but she smacks. Dark Elhen, I think, is a fine shout out, I guess, for the Undead Hordes, even though Husk is probably going to last you a bit longer. And help you scale up into things like Hydra, man. So we've got some good options there too, man. And if you feel like I miss any of these super, super OP nukers, by the way, make sure to go ahead and plop them down in the comments as well. Okay, moving on to Demon Spawn, I think there's actually only one option here, man. It is, of course, going to be the big man himself, Magna. Our first HP-based nuker. Just build him crit damage and as much health as you can possibly get on this guy. And then it's all about the A2, which is an attack all enemies. Place an extra hit on enemies without HP burn debuffs. Just don't run in with any HP burn champions, and this is always a double hitter on all enemies, and it hits exceptionally hard. He's a little bit of a one-trick pony, but what he does well, he does exceptionally well. And so yeah, I think that Magna has got to be the call out for Demon Spawn, man. Onto the Orcs, we have a little bit of more of an interesting pick here. Arguably, some people say the best epic champion in the game. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like for a champion to be the best of their category in the game, I kind of feel like they have to be useful in more than one area. Surely, like, versatility has got to be something that you take into account, and Sia is not great into, I don't think almost any boss encounters, but when it comes to wave content, oh my god. I mean, I've seen videos on YouTube of Seers hitting for like 500,000 and just deleting waves without any problem at all. ridiculously quickly. I think it all comes down to, actually we'll go ahead and cover her A2 first. Her A1 is just a chance to get an extra turn, it's whatever. Okay, so our A2 places an increased crit rate buff on all allies for 2 turns, and a weaken debuff on enemies for 2 turns as well. Nice to have, some self buff, juicy. The A3, remove all buffs from all allies and enemies, then attacks all enemies. Damage increases according to the number of removed buffs. Also has a chance of placing sleep debuff on enemies for 1 turn. The chance of placing sleep increases, blah, 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 blah. Just meta, man. Also inflicts less damage to bosses. But against wave content, all you want to do is run your Seer in a team with as many buff champions as humanly possible. A good free-to-play option for this, actually, and for this team, is going to be a Bannerlord's champion, Archmage Helmet. There he is. You get this guy very, very early on from just farming secret rooms in normal Doom Tower, and he brings all kinds of buffs on his A3, right? Increased speed, crit rate, crit damage. He just brings a hell of a lot of buffs, right? The more buffs you've got on the team, you can also put one of your champions on your Seer team in a shield set as well, in a shield artifact set. And that's just another layer of buffs that you're going to get right at the start of the round. And then this A3 just hits for like 600,000 or something, you know, which is not going to do for you if you're just getting started because, you know, your team's probably not optimized and a lot of it is gear dependent and stuff like that. But point is, you can hit for a hell of a lot of damage with this A3, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So Sia has just got to be the pick for that reason for the Orc faction. Next up, man, we've got the Skinwalkers, which I don't have a pick for. I don't think there's a single rare or epic champion in the Skinwalkers faction that in good conscience I can say you should max this champion up to be your sort of like core damage dealer. The exception could be a Kemptum. A Kemptum deals great damage, don't get me wrong, but is a Kemptum what you'd call a nuker? Does it matter if a Kemptum falls into the category of nuker exactly? A Kemptum does great damage, it's not a big burst of damage. You're not going to be using a Kemptum in arena. You're going to be using a Kemptum to mulch your way through, you know, enemy wave content and stuff like that. A Kemptum is kind of just, like Spider. A Kemptum is incredible into Spider, but it's like a sort of catch-all nuker. I don't think a Kemptum is it. Am I wrong? Genuinely, am I wrong, man? What do you guys think? Because Kemptum is such a weird champion. Yeah, you know what I mean, man? It's just like Fane is another one of those champions where Fane's a great damage dealer into clan boss. Brings great debuffs, lovely. But is Fane a nuker? You know, like you think of a nuker, you're thinking of a champion that's going to help you through faction wars, help you just like annihilate waves, and hypothetically could be useful into like Tag Arena and stuff like that, you know? Is a Kemptum even that guy? I actually don't even know, man. I guess we'll just say this. A Kemptum is a great damage dealer. I don't know if you consider a Kemptum a nuker because of the nature of a Kemptum's damage, right? Should you be maxing up in a Kemptum if you pull it early on your account? Hell yes you should, right? Is a Kemptum going to be a reliable damage dealer to help you absolutely blast something like faction wars and secret rooms and just annihilate the waves super efficiently? Not really. Not really. It's not really a Kemptum's job, you know, but I'll go ahead and spotlight a Kemptum anyway, man. As for the Lizardmen, rares, yeah, epics, very, very limited choices within the Lizardmen. I think that Slixus that was added to the game somewhat recently-ish as a fusion component champion for a recent-ish monthly fusion is a pretty decent epic option. Not bad. If you don't have any better damage dealer options in your Lizardmen faction, I think that Slixus is a fine option to consider. He's got an attack all enemies on the A3. Before attacking, increase crit rate buff and increase crit damage buff in this champ for a couple of turns. That's great. This skill is awesome. It kind of boosts Slixus, to be honest. What I will say is that his other skills are all single target hitters, right? He's got a double hitter that ignores shield and increased defense and strengthen on his A2. Just fine, you know, for just dealing damage. And on the A, but it's only single target, you know. And then on the A1, it's a double hitter with a chance of placing stun. So at least he brings a little bit of control, right? It's a 30% chance fully booked on hit of placing the stun on the A1. So while you're waiting for his A3 to come back, he does at least bring a little bit of control. Is Slixus like an amazing champ? I'd put him at like a B tier damage dealer. Probably just the best damage dealing option that Lizardmen have, though, that you could consider to be fairly budget. He would be my consideration for the Lizardmen. Ogren tribes. Oh my god, dude. We've got some damn good damage dealers in here. We've of course got Skrank just sitting around, which is amazing. Out and out nukers though, just nukers that are going to decimate a wave. Bro, Siege Hulk, man. This guy's great. Love Siege Hulk. Mine is sitting at level 40. I need to go ahead and max him up, but he just keeps getting knocked down the list a little bit as I pick up new legendaries and stuff. But yeah, Siege Hulk is great. Like most of the champs on this list, brings his own increased crit rate and increased crit damage buff on himself, then attacks him with one enemy, has a 100% chance bugged of placing a decreased speed debuff on the target for 2 turns. So he actually has some good utility into certain bosses as well, where decreased speed is sort of key, and so he does have that going for him as well. Sadly, this is only a single target hitter, but that's unlike his A2, which is an increased attack buff on himself. Dude, he brings all of the self buffs that you want on a damage dealer, then attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance bugged of placing a decreased defense debuff for a couple of turns. It's a bit sad that he places the decreased defense after he attacks all enemies. That sucks a little bit, but you know what? If you placed it before, he'd probably be one of the best nukers in the game, so I don't know, man. Well, not in the game, but in far as like epic nukers go. Still just a great skill, and the guy hits very, very hard indeed. He also brings a little bit of 10 meter control as well on his A1, so brings the utility, hits hard, nice budget option, magic affinity epic. Siege Hulk is one worth looking out for, I feel. And man, moving on to the last few factions, we've got the Barbarians faction, which some people in the stream chat were saying there isn't really a great option for Barbarians. Oh my god, man, are they mistaken? Because let me tell you something. Good old... Where's Alika? There she is, man. Alika, this champ, hidden gem, great. Extremely, extremely strong damage dealer for the Barbarians faction. Great utility into arena and PvP modes, as well as just general wave content. Let's do a quick kit breakdown, man. Hey, A1 is an attack one enemy, chance of placing an extra hit. The A2 attacks one enemy, ignores 50% of the target's defense if their max HP is higher than this champion's max HP. So against anybody who's not another attack-based champion, she's probably going to have less max HP than them and get to ignore all of that defense. This thing smacks, okay? Very, very, very good damage modifiers on this A2, and it's bookable down to a 2-turn cooldown, okay? It hits very hard and is kind of spammable, right? That's not all though. The A3 is an attack all enemies, has a 100% chance booked of increasing the cooldowns of all enemy skills by 2 turns. Go first arena teams, especially when you're in the early game. Oh my god, dude. Like, Alika is just huge damage, huge control right out of the gate. And yeah, she's insane. Dude, I've even seen some of the content creators too, and you know, you gotta take this with a grain of salt because some content creators are mega late game and they've got crazy great holes built out and crazy gear and stuff. but I've even heard some people recommend that Alika is a fine damage dealing option to get you started into normal Hydra when you're just getting started in, like, you're just dipping your toes in the Hydra waters, you know? Yeah, this is the kind of nuker that if you pull earlier in your account, you take this girl up to level 60, man, and she will repair you in multiple areas of the game, man. Good old Alika. Again, her damage modifiers are very, very nice indeed. Now, as for the Sacred Order, what have we got all up in here, man? Sacred Order is one of those factions where you got like a lot of champs and a lot of rubbish. You know what I'm saying, man? Like, I'm looking at the rares even. How many good rares are there? Like Mother Superior. I mean, I use her on my main account in Faction Wars at like a level 40 Mother Superior. And she does a little bit of help, you know, but screw the rest for now. There's not many good ones. Anyway, Sacred Order does have some okay epics. I mean, we've got Mordecai in there, right? Deacon's great as well. The Void epics are particularly good as well. There is a lot of dross. No, there's a lot of crap up here at the top, you know. Some people swear by Juliana, but I think as far as damage dealers go, we've got to call out Fennex, purely because he has the best A1 in the game for just dealing raw damage. Yeah, his A1's crazy. It's got very, very good damage modifiers. It's an attack one enemy, place an extra hit if the target has any debuffs. Enemies killed by the skill cannot be revived, so it brings a little bit of utility too. But yeah, the idea is you just smack people repeatedly with this A1. It hits really, really hard. It always double hits, pretty much. And then you put your Fennex on the likes of any kind of ally attack team. So you might team up like your Fennex with like a Morag that we covered a bit earlier on. And you're just trying to get him to spam this A1 as much as you possibly can. And it hits exceptionally hard. So there you go. Fennex is going to be our pick for the Sacred Order. Next up, we've got the High Elves. Is there really any option here but to cover Royal Guard, man? Which I'll kind of skim over because I'll be real. Like, we've covered Royal Guard so many times. In these, there's no other option. Goddamn Royal Guard. Okay, it's just gotta be. So he brings strong version, decreased defense on his A1, which is awesome. His A2 is where the damage comes in. It's an attack all enemies. Damage increases according to enemy max HP. Damage is based on attack and enemy max HP. Yeah, so into Spider's Den, where I still use my Royal Guard for just his crazy 10 meter control as well as decreased speed as well. This comes in very, very useful into Spider too. But his A2, yeah, it hits for like 1.7 million. And like, if you've got a super late game account and like you've got this guy empowered and stuff, I can only imagine what sort of numbers you can pull off. He hits really hard. Okay, I also use him into Ice Golem as well for farming up Ice Golem. He blasts that boss in a similar fashion. This skill just hits so goddamn hard. And what's more is that your Royal Guard is also going to help you out a lot into Hydra damage dealing as well. Because it's max HP damage, he has limited uses as a nuker in areas like Arena and stuff, of course. He's not going to be hitting anywhere near as hard there, but for just nuking down bosses and helping out against waves, Royal Guard is an easy, easy pick. And last up we have Bannerlords, where, frankly, I'm going to throw it over to you guys because I even scoured the rare champs for Bannerlords as well. They do not have a single decent rare or epic damage dealer in the entire faction. They are bereft. They're in the sea. I don't know what's going on. They're in the bin. Bannerlords have some terrible damage dealers. I mean, the only one that I even considered for longer than a millisecond was Horden. But he's kind of gimmicky, you know, like in how he works, or he gets some like extra 10 mechanics, and he gets an extra 10 if he kills a target with his A1. I guess you're gonna max level your Horden. The only place you'll use him ever, really, is Faction Wars. You know, it's a lot of resources to put in. You gotta put some damn good gear on him to ensure that he's getting kills with this A1. I can't in good conscience recommend that you max up a Horden. Now I guarantee there's gonna be somebody in the comments, right, when I post this up as a video on YouTube. I maxed up my Horden, bro. I use him everywhere, man. Live Arena, Hydra, I'm telling you, Horden is the man. Well, you know what? I'd love to hear about it. If you have maxed up a Horden and you feel like you're getting value out of him, do let me know. Be interesting to hear about. For me, I don't think I've seen enough to be convinced. Bannerlords, man, they're in pain, man. They're in the bin. Alright, man. What do you guys think of my picks? Where did I go wrong? Probably every single pick, according to some people. But hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you drop your thoughts down below. And you know what? If you're looking to start off a brand new raid account yourself, then make sure you do so using my beginner promo link down below to secure the best possible start you can get in Raid Shadow Legends with 4 free epic champions. And just all of them are just crazy, crazy good. Well, apart from Romero, but you can't have everything in this life, okay? The other 3 are really, really good. And I'm going to get you off to an incredible, incredible start in Raid. Just make sure that you are signed out to Plarium Player before clicking on that link and downloading Raid to guarantee that you set up a new account and get all of those fresh, lovely, lovely rewards. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you also enjoyed this one, and I'm going to catch all of you all just a tad bit later, man.